Today, we're decoding a huge mystery. Why does the battery in an electric car eventually die? We're pulling our clues from a fantastic podcast called Under the Microscope from the Science Talk, which really gets into the weeds of material science. So let's just jump right in. We all agree the future is electric, right? But there's this one kind of huge catch. The batteries inside those amazing cars get old. They lose their punch, and eventually they just stop. So the big question is, why? How does that actually happen on the inside? Well, to find the answer, we're going to look at the work of Anastasia Michankova, a PhD student over at Uppsala University in Sweden. Honestly, you can think of her as a battery detective. She's on the case, hunting for the root causes of battery failure. Her entire mission is to get to the bottom of how these batteries age, not just on the surface, but on a really fundamental level, to see the physical and the chemical changes that are happening deep inside the cells. So how in the world does she uncover these secrets? Well, and this is the cool part, it turns out that to understand why a battery dies, you first have to, you have to break it, meticulously. And this is where the investigation gets super hands-on. As she says herself, the real fun starts when she actually gets to tear the battery cells apart. It sounds destructive, but it's a totally necessary path to get to that scientific discovery. Her whole process is this careful, four-step investigation. First, she ages the batteries in the lab under realistic conditions. Then comes the teardown. She literally pulls out the core materials so she can analyze them at every single scale, from the whole electrode right down to the individual atoms. And, finding clues way down at the atomic level, that requires some seriously powerful tools. We're talking about seeing things that are completely invisible to the naked eye. So she uses these two key techniques to get the full story. First, scanning electron microscopy, or SEM, shows her changes to the material's surface, its shape. Then she uses X-ray diffraction, or XRD, which looks even deeper to reveal changes in the internal atomic build. It's like having a surface map and the structural blueprint of the battery's decay. So cool. Okay, so what has all this detective work actually revealed? What's the point? Let's look at a key finding from one of her recent studies, because it really shows you just how complicated this whole process is. What she found is huge. There's no single bad guy when it comes to battery death. It turns out the different metals inside the battery all age at their own pace, and they lose their effectiveness in totally unique ways. Even oxygen's role in the whole thing changes over time. It means there's no silver bullet here. You can't just fix one thing. You have to understand this whole system of failures that are all connected. And that, right there, brings us to the big takeaway. Understanding exactly how and why each tiny piece fails, that's the critical first step. It really leaves us with this powerful question for the future, doesn't it? What if we could use all this knowledge to design the next generation of batteries? Ones that don't just perform better, but actually age more gracefully.